Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today is Monday night, 9 p.m. and that is Ask Abhijit night. And as always, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. Abhijit, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, that's a Star Trek
Trek.
sign. For a moment, I blanked out here. All right. So, Abhijit, before we jump into the Q&A session, a couple of announcements. Viewers, the questions that were not answered in our last hangout, we are going to put the answers up. We had some technical difficulties. It's all sorted out. We'll put it up and we will send you the link and you can all watch it. It will be on social media as always. And today we are going to start with today's question so that we can keep up and stay in sync with you guys. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, before we jump into the Q&A, we're going to talk about Bhag-Justin-Bhag. Why is this guy running away and hiding in the capital city of Canada? By the way, it is pronounced Ottawa by locals. I don't know how Mr. Abhijit wants to pronounce it. I'll leave it to him and he can tell us what he knows about the truckster problems or the trucker strike that is happening and consuming Canada.
So I call it whatever or whatever. So what has happened in whatever is that basically, look, it's really simple. The people of Canada have had enough. These are working class people. 60% or more of truck drivers in Canada are Sikh. Okay. And what happens with them is they tend to vote overwhelmingly for Labour. And they are the ones that have been shafted the most by these consistent lockdowns and now the need for vaccine mandates and things like that. Now, look, you can be pro vaccination, but you can't shove it down people's throats. Why are they enforcing vaccine mandates? Because almost for everybody in Canada, you have a public health system. You don't really have to take private insurance. Now, the problem with that is when you have private health insurance, you pay for the cost of your choices. So, for example, your insurance guy can say, if you don't want to take the vaccine, that's perfectly fine, but you have to pay $50 a year more. Okay, you accept that. Or if you don't accept that, you find another insurance provider who says, we will provide you insurance at this same fee without that $50 and no need to get vaccinated. The problem of having a centralized healthcare system is it socializes the costs. So if people don't want to take the vaccine, the burden of it later on. Now, there's two parts to this. One is you can believe in natural immunity. Human history is the story of natural immunity. But if you don't and you get sick, the disproportionate costs on the system get socialized and the average taxpayer bears the cost. So this is coming from the socialist policies of Canada, where these guys are exercising their right to free choice, but they now realize that thanks to their great love of socialism and voting for Labour, there is no such thing as a free lunch. They are not allowed to exercise this free choice, right? And they now realize that accepting that kind of healthcare has become something of a it's removed their ability for free choice. This is part one. Part two is the fact that these were all labor class people whose lives were very badly affected by lockdowns and things like that. Okay, the ability to transport, move across borders, and all of that got really badly screwed up. And this guy is just going on and on and on with new things over and over again. And they've just had enough now. So, what you're seeing now is a society that's just had enough. It's the only Anglophone society that you see that's actively now rebelling against mask mandates. We've seen this happen in Paris, we've seen this happen in Madrid, in Spain. But this is the first Anglo-Saxon country, and nobody thought this would start in Canada. And yet, remarkably, It started in Canada. And note what's happening. These people, the government is a labor government, it's a left wing government. The Canadian media is overwhelmingly left wing. And yet, they are demonizing these actual laborers, blue collar workers, truck drivers, as a fringe minority. And clearly, they're not. Because they would have taken, they probably learned from what the farmers did in Delhi. Thank God for that. Unintended positive of the farm protests. And they've decided to go blockade Ottawa, whatever. And they've basically stocked up. They claim that they have enough. I was looking at tweets today where their representatives are claiming that they have enough for 2 to 4 years, to blockade whatever for 2 to 4 years. Now, when you say fringe minority, this is a neo-Nazi group, there are white supremacists, this and that. The head of this entire thing, a guy called, well, I mean, he's the face, he's not the head, but he's the face of the entire thing. He is one of the leaders of it, is a guy called Ben Dietrich, who is both gay and Jewish. So imagine accusing him of being a fringe minority by the Canadian left. So this is going to hurt Trudeau quite badly. The problem is the head of the Liberals out there is a guy called Erin O'Toole. He's also known by most conservatives as Erin O'Fool, because he is one of the most singularly stupid leaders that party has ever had the misfortune of having. Think of him as the Rahul Gandhi of Canada. So he's completely unable to capitalize on it. And mind you, the Liberals, instead of adopting a posture on individual liberties, which is what they're known for, the right to self-determination, individual liberties, and all of that, they are the ones who are not differentiating themselves from the government at all. At all. They have actually towed the labor line, and there is no product differentiator left. So that's what's been happening here. And because Trudeau thought he could get away with this, that he had neutralized liberals who were basically supporting all his policies. He had neutralized the press because they were supporting his policies. He had localized the entire media to love him as, oh, handsome, sweet, woke guy, etc., etc., etc. The people said enough is enough. They've come about, and all the castles he built in the air have all come crumbling down. He's basically panicking. He does not know what to do. And he's gone into hiding. He claims isolation, but it's not isolation. He is apparently genuinely in hiding.
Interesting days ahead, and we will keep you posted on that. And now let's jump into questions. Muhammad Obaid Ali wants to know, can Israel get Islamic rule instead of partition if Muslim population increases significantly? Can Muslims do this in India? Is there a serious literature on this form of demographic inversion? Have you read about Lebanon, Muhammad Obaid Ali?
Well, Lebanon's a different issue. Lebanon doesn't work the same way. Different trajectories, different stories. So what happens here is, remember, there is Israel. There are Israeli Arabs who are about 20 to 25% of the population. Not all of them are Muslims. There's a significant Christian Arab population out there as well. Remember, people like Hanan Ashrawi are Christian. Okay. There is no fear of them overtaking the entire population. The fear is in the Palestinian areas, which are right now segregated through the separation barrier, who form a different polity. They elect a different president. They are almost certainly going to overtake the number of Jews in the British colony of Palestine. Let's call it that. So what happens here is the Palestinians talk about it very openly. They'll say, that's fine, we'll become more than 7 to 8 million in the next 15 to 20 years. And then we'll say, you know what, yeah, we should be one country, we're all going to vote in elections. Realistically, that's not something the Israelis are going to allow. But it's also something that they're not planning for. They're just going on postponing that day. And when the Palestinians say, we want to vote, we want the right to vote in Israeli elections, we're under Israeli occupation, so we need the right to vote, I don't know what their response is going to be. So the right in Israel and the left also have been playing ostrich on this for quite some time. Number one. Number two, can Muslims do this in India? Well, theoretically, anybody can do this in any country, but it's not happening. Remember, Muslim fertility rates in places like Kerala and all, the more educated you get, the way out of this is education. The more educated states, the Muslims also don't have the same replacement rates that you have in, say, places like UP and things like that. The serious literature on this, I have not yet seen serious literature on this. It's mostly something of a joke. It's either apologias or it's conspiracy theories. Highly ludicrous prognostications and things like that. So, no.
Hey, question. Why is so Palestinians are split in two parts, West Bank and Gaza, isn't it?
Correct.
So when you said something just now, these are geographically separated, and you think that they'll come together to form a unitary government?
No, that's not happening. There's now a full partition. If ever Palestine gets independent, it'll be East Palestine and West Palestine. Right?
Oh, just like India, Pakistan, West
just
Pakistan, East Pakistan.
well, not like India or Pakistan, more like Germany, because it's the same people, same religion, split as per political ideology. It isn't different religions like India and Pakistan.
But then East and West Germany were contiguous.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. But in this
It's
case,
not in this case.
Contiguous or not, it's just a political division. It isn't a religious division.
So tell me, how is this different from Lebanon?
So Lebanon is very different. Lebanon is an artificial creation, right? It was created in 1921 or 1919, I forget, out of the Syrian mandate. The French had the mandate of Syria, the League of Nations mandate of Syria. And what they decided to do was they decided to create an artificial Christian majority. Why? Because the Christians out of there identified with the Crusader kingdoms and things like that. They call themselves Phoenician. So in Australia or Brazil or places like that, if you see Phoenician bakery, you know they're Lebanese Christians. Now, what happens out here is the system that was set up in Lebanon was set up specifically. Now, you look at Syria, Greater Syria, which is to say Syria plus, a little tip of Turkey barging in just north of Tartus and Latakia, plus Lebanon. It is a Sunni majority. It's an overwhelming Sunni majority, a significant Shia population. Within that are the Alawites, and there is a big Christian population. But big isn't big enough. So in Syria, what has been happening is Alawites are number one, Christians are number two, and the Christians and Alawites have an alliance between them, and they've been ruling Syria for quite some time now. That's the Bashar al-Assad, but even before Bashar al-Assad, it had started. They're ruling a Sunni majority. But this is more modern. The older history, 1919, 1921, is Lebanon. Now, in Lebanon, what the French did was they said Christians are number one. So the president would be Christian. The prime minister would be a Sunni, and the speaker of parliament would be Shia. In fact, the Shias weren't accommodated initially. That came about later under the Taif Accords and things like that after the civil war. But the problem there was the president held all the power. And in real time, what had happened was, since 1921, there was no census carried out in Lebanon, because it had been set to population levels. What had happened was that they did not want to have a census. The Christians wanted to maintain the Christian majority. When in fact what had happened was the Shia had been reproducing massively. It wasn't so much the Sunnis, it was the Shias. And when the Taif Accords were signed, the Shias still got shafted over. But that's all changed now, because what they could not win at the ballot, in spite, we now think the Shias are an absolute majority. We don't know, no census carried out since 1921. We think they're about 50 to 51. They're at least about 45% of the population, but most of us think it's about 50+% of the population. What they could not carry out in the Taif Accords and things like that, they've carried out through Hezbollah, which for all effects and purposes controls Lebanon in a sense. But what the Taif Accords did was they readjusted the balance. The presidency, which remained with the Christian, became a figurehead presidency, and the prime ministership with a Sunni prime minister became the executive prime minister.
Well, today, if you have to take a guess, 50% Shia, then how much is Christian and how much is Sunni?
I'd say about 30% is Sunni and 20% is a Christian. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the overwhelming majority of the Christian population left during the Civil War. The moment the Civil War, I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise interference coming.
Can you please mute?
Yeah, much better. I can't hear you either, Shri, though. But yeah. Okay, so there's lots of noise coming from your thing. Anyway, so they mostly fled during the Civil War. Till the Civil War, you could have said that the Christians were about at least 45-48% of the population, almost, we think. Because remember, there's never been a census. These are all intelligent guesses. There's a whole methodology to how the guesswork was done. But once the Civil War started, they all migrated abroad. So Australia has a huge Lebanese population. Brazil, I don't know if it's still true, but up to the early 2000s, at least till 2010, 2011, there were more Lebanese in Brazil than there were in Lebanon. Okay. And the overwhelming majority of those Lebanese in Brazil were Christians, just like they are in Australia as well. So that's what happened.
And just to complete our conversation, can you guess the percentages of population in Syria? Alawites, Christians, Sunnis, and Shias.
So we don't know that anymore. After the war and the displacement and all of that, we really don't know what has happened out there, because even there, more part of it was the Alawite Christian Sunni dynamic. The other dynamic was the constant rivalry between Aleppo and Damascus. Remember, Aleppo and Damascus were always at loggerheads with each other. They frequently controlled each other, but they've never really gotten along. Right? So there was also this. Remember, the famine when it struck, when it wasn't a famine, it was a drought, which then led to a lot of economic hardship. In 2009, it started, or 2007, I forget. It devastated the northern agriculture. Damascus in the south wasn't so badly affected, which is why the entire rebellion starts up in the north in Aleppo and places like that, before moving down south. So there's a lot of dynamics to it. And in the years before that, in the 3 years before the war started, there was a huge movement of population from Aleppo to Damascus, from the northern half of the country to the southern half of the country.
All right.
We have absolutely no idea anymore of what the population composition of Syria is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next question, please. Hello. Next question, please.
Question.
Just 1 second. I can pull it up. All right. Here's the next question. Why has the government not been successful in indigenization of production in electronics manufacturing till now? Is it lack of policy or insight to blame?
Hmm. Uh, Look, I can tell you what you see from a defense point of view, which is we've never had economies of scale in defense, and that overlap hasn't been done. But probably this is a question for you, Shri, because I think you answered this when you were talking about semiconductors last week or last to
Yeah,
last week.
yeah, yeah,
Remember?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Mandar, I think if you look at last week's AMA or the week before last, Shri has answered this in detail. But in terms of getting that technology from abroad, I can tell you, we've never actually looked at economies of scale and doing large scale purchases. Look, all these decisions, some of them can happen without being government policy, but mostly they're a result of extremely focused government policy. We don't focus on that.
Next question is Devaditya Pramanik. Why is information age post-religious reasons? Can this natural anthropological evolution be clamped down? Let's go one question at a time. Why is information age post-religious?
Well, it's not necessarily post religious. In the West, it has been post religious because of a certain level of lifestyle. The West started getting post religious before the information age started. The information age accelerated the process, but I'm not too sure there is causation out here. I haven't seen causation. Okay. I personally am not convinced by the write ups I've read that there is a causation in this. Where the causation lies is that in the post religious societies where the information age has come, you see an enormous tendency towards political correctness, because religion used to be the form of social control. Now political correctness is the form of social control. Okay, but look, America never became post-religious. You can still argue it is nowhere near post-religious. Maybe sections of New York and California are, but the rest of the country absolutely is not. Even large sections of New York and California are not, even if they vote Democrat. But Europe became very significantly post-religious very, very rapidly, way before the information age. Japan, Singapore. You look at church attendance in places like Germany or Spain or France or Australia or Britain, or the Scandinavian countries. They had reached almost nothing well before the information age set in. They had become that way through the by the early 70s, 80s, definitely by the 80s, they had become post religious. So I'm not sure there is causation. There is correlation, even that is highly tendentious, but I'm not sure there's actual causation. Right. Uh, uh, and so I'm not even sure it's natural anthropological evolution. You understand? Because I'm not seeing that evolution, because political correctness is the new religion. Wokeness, gender theory, CRT, these are the new religion. You can't challenge them. If you challenge them, you're burnt alive at the stake. Well, I mean, not physically burnt alive at the stake, but cancel culture is the new burning alive at the stake. Think of it that way. Okay. Or as some people call it, consequence culture. Well, the consequence of speech is speech. Uh, but it's gone far beyond speech, where they come and affect your family, your income, and this and that and all of that. And the third part of your question, how can there still be believing Christians in information age America? Like I said, there is no correlation. Okay, there is no correlation out here. You can, in fact, be very rich and be quite conservative. Okay, it's very, very normal. There isn't an exact, there isn't a correlation. Basically, we still don't understand what makes a society post-religious, because Europe did, Japan did, Singapore did, America did not. So there's no one template to go by.
Next question, please. Akashnil Datta wants to know, you've said there is homogenization around Salafism happening among Indian Muslims right now. What makes you believe so?
Good. So lots of things that are happening. You look at the way, you look at a lot of the discourses that come out of the different schools, say the Deobandis, the Barelvis, and all these guys. Uh, what you see is that the Salafist trend, the Salafist interpretation is taking over the most. And there has always been this trend, even within Salafism, where a native Arab interpretation will always trump. I'm sorry, there's a lot of interference coming. There's a lot of background noise and things happening. I can't hear you.
Oh, uh, I have muted myself. Sorry about this.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay, okay, okay. So what's happening here is, if you look at Ibn Taymiyyah, there was a whole concept that developed around Ibn Taymiyyah. And mind you, this was after the Turkic and Mongol. By this time, the Turks and Mongols were the masters of the Middle East. Arabs were no longer in charge. And Ibn Taymiyyah basically looks at them as takfir. He develops this concept of takfir. You're not a kafir, but you're a takfir, which is you're a Muslim, but you're not really a Muslim. And there has been this trend since then to prioritize native Arab interpretations of the Quran over non-native Arab interpretations of the Quran. Now, this may not be happening deliberately. So, for example, the Deobandis and Barelvis and people like, say, Maulana Maududi and people like that who migrated to Pakistan, they would not consciously be doing this, but there is a tendency to defer to Arab interpretations of this. All right. You've also seen, for example, how there's a homogenization of languages that happens because of the information age. In Italy, for example, Italy till the 60s used to speak very, very different dialects. Calabrian and a Neapolitan would barely understand a Northern Italian, who would barely understand a Sardinian. It was the introduction of TV more than anything else that started uniting Italy linguistically after almost 100 years of the Risorgimento. You see the same thing happen in the Arab world as well, in the Muslim world as well, where people are automatically, remember in Sunniism, you have this concept of ijtihad. There is no sacerdotal function. The priest doesn't act as an intermediary between you and God. You have a direct relationship with God. It's like the Protestant church that way, right? They reject the priest and, well, they don't reject, but they don't accept the intermediary status. So this concept of ijtihad, where each person, it's the same root as jihad, where each person has the right to examine this for himself or herself. What has happened is, in that process, you have seen a general fondness for the interpretation provided by Arabs. So if you look at the general homogenization tendencies of technology, plus the theological basis for that homogenization, you see it's actually very strong. You see it much more subtly around the religious discourses coming out, theological discourses coming out of the school. But in practical terms, Indian Muslims almost never wore the burqa. I mean, growing up in the 70s and 80s, we never ever saw the burqa on the road. If you could go into Muslim mohallas and things, and you would once in a blue moon see a burqa. Now it's become very common. Covering your head up and things like that is extremely common. In Tamil Nadu, I can tell you, the elder lady of the house would put the pallu, the sari ka pallu. It would be a Kanchipuram sari. She would just cover her head with the Kanchipuram sari. That's it, like a North Indian gungat. Because in Tamil houses, in Tamil Hindu houses, you never cover your head. It's considered a huge insult. Exact opposite of the North. In the North, Hindus will cover their head in the gungat. In the South, you never do it. But Muslims used to, only the elder lady, the normal ladies would not do it. If it was a religious household, maybe the younger bahu and things like that will do it. Now it is full on black, uh, you know, uh, 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 what spandex or lycra burkhas or nylon burkhas and things like that that they wear. Uh, the full hijab is still quite rare, but you're seeing that trend slowly happening.
Is the organogram of the left in India knowable only through espionage? Why? Why not?
Why would you think, when you say organogram, what do you mean? I mean, we know the organogram of the CPI and the CPIM. When you say organogram of the left, are you talking about what you consider the larger left ecosystem? No, I think we all know how it works. The techniques have been known to us for a very long time, uh, but they're not doing anything about it. Okay, they've always been on the narrative back foot since day one in 2014. So I doubt. See, it's one thing saying you know about it, but actually being able to do something about it, I'm not seeing that happen at all.
Next question, please. Nishant Abhangi, why won't Thomas Sowell style economic position win you elections in India?
The same reason that Rahul Gandhi's Hindu versus Hindutva is not going to win him an election. You go to a dirt poor country like India, and you tell them you need to take responsibility for your life. I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to give you any handouts. That's not a winning position. It's simply not going to happen. So, in dirt poor countries like India, it's one of those things that all the agrarian countries that ultimately became first world countries, there was a significant power imbalance. There was a power concentration in favor of the nobility and the elite classes, which they exploited, overexploited when you had revolutions, which then served as a warning to other countries, which then decided to, share the goodies a bit, do socialism for a while, and then, allay public anger at the disparity and then grow again. In India, it is an agrarian society. You go tell an agrarian society, you take responsibility for your own poverty or misery or whatever. I am not going to help you. It's simply not going to work, especially after you've been giving them assistance of some form or the other for the last 70 years.
You want to take a break and get a sip of water while I do a couple of announcements? It's about half an hour into the program.
Yes.
Okay. So, viewers, I just want him to keep his throat wet. And as we go through this, so what we're going to do is in the next couple of days, I guarantee you, we're going to have the questions answered from the last week. Those will be put up on our second channel. And just a simple, humble request to all of you, when you watch that channel, please subscribe to that channel. That way, what happens is, whether it is put out on the first channel or the second channel, you will get to listen to all Ask Abhijit questions and episodes. And the reason we are trying to do this is to balance out a little bit of our traffic. We never know when we will get carded or docked or penalized. So we want to be careful about this. That's why we want to have one channel running, even if one were to suffer some sort of a stop or some slowdown process. Just being safe. We never consciously lie. We're always for the truth, but truth has a strange way of upsetting many people who are having fake narratives. So this is really the reason why we are doing this. The second channel is still taking baby steps. It is just coming up, but it is our hope that with your support, we can scale the same kind of heights that we've scaled with the first channel. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if Abhijit is back. He still isn't back. one more thing is that we have got a lot of inputs from you guys from the last week when I had suggested that we would like to grow faster, that we need to do things. Yes, it takes a lot of work, but we are trying a slightly different tack, and I'm hoping that you will support us on that also. We have now tried to do things in a slightly different way in our news segments. We used to do 5 days a week. We've changed that now to once a week. It's like weekly global insights. And this weekly global insights is news around the world, including India, over a week's period. So what happens is we can give some more depth to all the news items we are covering. Usually, typically do 20 topics. So 20 topics, about 40 to 45 minutes. Now, this we are trying to also bring it to you in different regional languages. You may ask me why. Well, because in the regional languages, that's where the media has completely been taken over by one political party or the other. Whether you take Kerala or Tamil Nadu or Andhra, which is both Andhra and Telangana, there have been instances of this. So the fakeness of the narrative has really, really become prevalent. So at the same time, people deserve to know what is happening in the country as well as outside, not these fake narratives, slanted stories where there is they are heavily loaded, sometimes outright lies. So all these things need to be corrected, and this is our small gesture, and that is going to be in regional languages channels. For example, we're doing this as a pilot project in Tamil. So we're going to do PGurus Tamil, and there you will get the weekly global insights in Tamil, and you can listen to that. Again, request to you, those of you who understand Tamil, to subscribe to this channel, also to forward the channel to those of you, like many of our grandmas and your moms, they are more comfortable listening to news in Tamil. And we are trying to give you'll know, we're trying really hard to give you like a properly researched Tamil, which makes it, very, very close to being the authentic Tamil that you're all used to. So we're going to do that. And again, for that also, we'll need your help to help us subscribe and grow that thing to the next level. And Abhijit, I'm looking for him. He's still not there yet. But viewers, your support has been almost magical. Oh, he's back now. Abhijit, I was just running out of things to say. And
I don't know why my throat is getting really, really parched.
okay, so now you're okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. Next question, please. Shivam Goyal, should we have mosques and temples in government educational institutions? Is this against secularism?
No, it's a different kind of secularism. Remember, we are dharma nirpeksh or panth nirpeksh, depending on what you use in Hindi. It would be against the French form of secularism, which is anti-clerical. We are not anti-clerical. We are nishpaksh. We don't take sides, but everybody is allowed. So it's kind of like the more like the American version than it is the French version.
Next question, please. Kanda Batata, what do you think about Chile's new constitution and its new president?
I haven't read up at all, and I don't know at all. Chile is one of those strange places where I have no friends. Uh, it Except for the economic aspects of it, nothing ever comes up in my South America, except Brazil and Peru are a big lacuna for me, and Venezuela. Peru, the only reason Peru comes up for me is because I made a lot of friends there, because as a student, I worked there on an archaeological dig. That was great fun. Uh, 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 Mostly it had to do with my fascination for human sacrifice. Uh, and then I landed up in Peru and realized that they weren't major human sacrificers, unlike the Aztecs and the Mayas. And I felt very, very cheated. But anyway, I'd already signed up for the dig, so I had to be volunteer out there for a while. But that's the only reason I know what happens in Peru. And Brazil, I have lots of friends. But otherwise, Chile, the engagement with them is almost non existent, even at an organizational level, almost non existent.
Hey, question. Have you been to Chichen Itza in Mexico, near Cancun?
Yes, I did that entire 12-day La Ruta Maya thing, package tour, but I did it and it was fascinating. Well, it was a mixed bag. Okay. Um, I knew a lot of the history of those places. In those days, you didn't really have internet, so you didn't, I mean, have much access to uh, uh, academic journals online and things like that. So I probably know a lot more now and I'm able to contextualize a lot more now. But I remember in the mid to early 90s when I was there, where you still had dial-up internet. Do you remember that? You'd go,
Oh, yes,
you would
yes,
have to,
yes. I've
had to
done that.
ring and go, chish, tring,
Yeah, yeah,
tring,
yeah.
tring, and
Modem.
then
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. Those were the days. And what would happen was, for some reason at that point, they were very diffident about talking about human sacrifices. So we would go to, I remember we went to Uxmal. I did the extended tour. So we went to Belize, Guatemala, the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and all of that. Tikal, Chichen Itza, all these places. And they're all different periods of time. Both in Mexico City at the National Museum and in Teotihuacan and in the Maya trip, they would keep insisting, no, 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 there was no human sacrifice. These are all stories made up by the conquistadors when they came and things like that. And you were like, yeah, dude, not happening. But, I mean, you're polite during these things. Anyway, I wasn't interested in their narrative. I was just more interested in the architecture. And I'm generally fascinated because, they were Stone Age. Imagine in the 1400s being Stone Age, Neolithic empires, which we never thought were possible. We did not believe Stone Age people could build cities, but they did. People forget that there was Stone Age. So I found it fascinating. But what did you want to know specifically about Chichen Itza?
Oh, no, no, no. Human sacrifice. Same thing. Chichen Itza. It was basically, basketball version zero. If you think of today's basketball as
Well,
version one.
yeah, look, that was a very small part. That ball game
Right.
was a very small part of the human sacrifice. And the human sacrifice patterns also change because at some point, what happens is Teotihuacan, which is near Mexico City today, does a long range power projection. Uh, they literally come and capture the entire Maya civilization. And the entire nature of human sacrifices and things changes very, very significantly. And there is a constant Maya civil war happening between uh, Chichen Itza, or either Chichen Itza and Tikal on one side, and Bonampak and, oh God, Google it. But
Yeah.
it's almost 100-200 year war, constant war happening out there, where they go kill each other's kings, sacrifice populations, and things like that. Fantastic stuff. I love these people, right? Like, if there's one period of time I'd want to go back and observe, but definitely not be a part of, it's
Yeah, and viewers, if you think that the British really plundered India, you should read up on Cortes, Cortes, and how he plundered Latin America, both North and South, until again, the British came in and stopped a lot of that stuff. Next question, please. Kanda Batata, this is a question for you, Abhijit. When are you going to try Tapla with Nutella?
I am never going to try thepla with Nutella. Thank you very much. I like my thepla as they are, or with guju pickles. And no, I will never ever try. Anybody suggesting thepla with Nutella will be banned from asking PGurus a question on PGurus AMA. This
And
this
he's
that
doing
pizza
a shout out.
dosa, that pizza
He's
dosa. Huh.
Yeah, he's doing a shout out to join Iyer Boys on Reddit, which is the only AIM fan club. Viewers, it's up to you whether you want to join it or not. But we wanted to just give it out. Poor guy has taken the trouble to write it out. We'll read it out. Next question, please. Aditya B. Why is the color red associated with communists? Same with why red associated with Republicans, blue with Democrats. Go ahead.
So, this association of colors with a certain this thing, it's not new. It's been there. Like you associate green with Islam, right? The earliest I have seen of a color association was in Byzantium, in Constantinople, where you had the chariot factions. And each of the chariot, there were four teams. There were the blues, the greens, the reds, and something else. And they were really the reason was in pre-literate times it used to act as a symbol. It's the same reason in America you don't have election symbols per se. They will write the names of the candidate and you pick them. But in India, because of the high level of illiteracy, each party was given an election symbol. It's either a color identification or a symbolic identification where you then know who your person is or what you're doing. Because mostly people were sheep at that point. I mean, they still are sheep in a manner of speaking. But that is why you had color associations. And the earliest I know of color associations is the horse chariot teams. Google the Nika rebellion. That was the first color revolution, well, attempted color revolution that happened under Justinian. Was it Justinian or Theodosius? No, Justinian, yeah, because his wife was Theodora. In the Byzantine Empire, the first color revolution. But that's the general color association. It has to do with literacy and things like that.
Next question, please. Debanjan Banerjee wants to know, can Bangladesh get into Chinese orbit without Hasina?
Yes, but what's to say that they won't get into Chinese orbit even with Hasina? If there's a cash crunch and things like that, if the terms are too good, they'll go there. I think everybody's watching what's happening with Sri Lanka and Pakistan right now. Sri Lanka much more so. Because Pakistan allows itself to be used a certain way. They provide certain goods in terms of strategic nuisance value to India, to the Chinese. Sri Lanka does not. So I think everybody's watching. But yeah, Hasina has been a check on it. But you never know when the Chinese make an offer that's too good.
Next question, please. Suresh Kumar, will Taiwan buy BrahMos?
Wrong question, Suresh. The question you should be asking is, will India sell BrahMos to Taiwan? And the answer is emphatically no. We are so scared. We don't even the COI intelligence cooperation that we should be doing with the Taiwanese, we don't do that because we're shit scared. We are more loyal to the one China policy than the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping are.
Next question, please. Chaitanya Naidu wants to know, Pak analysts like Ijaz Haider are calling for Pak army to do surgical strikes inside Afghanistan, targeting the TTP. What is the future of Pakistan-Taliban relationship?
Basically, Taliban is doing to Pakistan what Pakistan was doing to Afghanistan. Okay, it's a very good thing. In fact, I want the Pakistan army to go do strikes inside Afghanistan. I want them to try to, control Afghanistan directly and get bogged down in a quagmire. It'll be very good if they do that.
Question to me. Aditya Iyer wants to know, why in California so many homeless people, drug addicts and mentally ill patients roam freely on the streets, even in prominent tourist spots like the Hollywood Boulevard? Aditya, if you go to Eiffel Tower, you will see the same thing. And if you go to New York, you'll see the same thing. The problem is that all these places have now been overrun with people who just come in, and the police also knows who they are. They don't have any papers. Yet the problem is, what do you do with them? If you go and put them in prisons, there are not enough prisons spaces to put them all in. And you can't evict them out of the country because half of them don't even want to go back to their country. So they'll find a way to come back in. So this is a real problem. I don't know what to do about it. Unfortunately, this does create a situation of problem, especially if you are, if you go to Paris. Paris is a lot more dangerous than Hollywood Boulevard, and San Francisco also has the same problem. However, they somehow seem to manage to keep it under some sort of reasonable control. It'll go up, and then there'll be a few stories, and then suddenly it'll tamp down, and everything seems to be all right after that. The most interesting thing was when I went to San Francisco, there is an Asian art museum. This is bang in front of the San Francisco City Hall, right in front. Okay, there's a big garden space, and then on one side is the City Hall, and the other side is a road, and off of the road on the other side is the Asian Art Museum. Just by the side of the Asian Art Museum, similar size, is the biggest camp of homeless. I mean, everything is out in the open. Imagine taking a walk through the Asian Art Museum. I mean, you're going to be looking at all these sights and smells, and they are camped right in front of the City Hall of one of the richest cities in the world. What do? I don't know. This is wokeism at its wokest. Sachin, how will India be affected if Russia invades Ukraine?
Look, the real worry is the sanctions, because what CATSA exemption we get, we may get, will absolutely not happen after that. Number one. Number two, if Russia and America, it's not the Russians, it's the Americans, if they go into this absolute, us versus them camp, you're either with us or against us, it makes life horrible for India. How do we then balance out China? Remember when the Americans did that with Iran, with the Iran sanctions under Obama, before the nuclear deal was signed, we had to ultimately do what the Americans wanted us to do. We went vocal about it, but we had to do it. At that point, there was consideration made for countries like India, where they said, yeah, you can buy oil, but you can't do the payment in dollars. So we came up with the rupee trade agreement, where we were actually getting a very favorable deal from Iran, while still, Iran was selling us oil and gas at that point, oil, not gas, at that point, at less than the cost of production. So they were selling it at a loss to us, just for the cash they were getting to keep money circulation running in the economy. And that was done to ensure that countries like India will find it easy, without sacrificing their own national interest, to follow American sanctions. In this case, the sanctions will not be done that way. It will be an absolute my way or the highway kind of sanctions, most probably. We're not too sure. The second issue will be SWIFT transfers and things like that. So payments that you make to the Russians and things, how are you going to do that? The people-to-people trade is negligible. The issue will become far worse in terms of interoperability of Indian and American origin and Russian origin weapon system, where the Americans will insist on an absolute separation. Does India have negotiating tools? Yes. Because, you say that, this is going back to the 70s, boss. If you impose these kind of sanctions on us, we can't have trust on you. The Russians aren't insisting on it. Why are you? So there are those tools available. Let's see. It depends on how apeshit Biden actually goes. So the actual effect of Russia invading Ukraine, nothing. The effect of the sanctions that follow the Russian invasion of Ukraine will be something. But personally, I don't think Russia is going to invade Ukraine.
Can I ask you a follow-up question on that? See,
Yeah.
I'm reading that Russia is looking at Donetsk, which is on the eastern part of Russia, Ukraine, and it's perhaps joining Russia. Is your perception the same, that they may want to just have that portion or something like that?
Look, the what you need to understand is I want all of you to look at a map of Poland before the Second World War and Poland after the Second World War. And what you'll realize is that Kiev was actually the Kiev area was the most western part of Ukraine. And what is today Western Ukraine was originally Poland. Places like Lviv and things like that were used to be called Lvov. And there were Polish cities. You know, this was the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, which had a significant Ukrainian kind of a Ukrainian component to it and things like that. Ukraine today, what you need to understand is three parts. There's a Russian eastern part that was given to it by Nikita Khrushchev and the reorganization of the Soviet Union, both before and after. There are parts of Ukraine that were forcibly added to Ukraine by the Tsars. And there is the post World War II Ukraine, which was annexed to it, where Poland was moved further west. Okay. If I send you something on DM Shri, can you bring it up on this thing?
Sure, sure, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly run a search for it because I want all the viewers to see this.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah, are you pulling up a map of this thing, Europe? I can do that for you.
No. There's a very specific. Okay, I copy photo and I am WhatsApp. I'm sorry. I'm WhatsApp me. This thing will be. Look at the chat that we're on. I've sent it to you on Twitter. If you can pull that map up.
Yeah. And then there you go. I got it now. Just 1 second, okay? My editor will be getting it in just 1 second. I needed to send it to him, and he will put it up in just a jiffy here.
Okay, so if you zoom in on this.
Yeah, it's being zoomed into. Yeah.
Right. So you look at the blue territory, that's core Ukrainian territory.
This is gold, by the way. This is gold.
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
Yeah. So the golden area was what the Tsars added to Ukraine. Now, when we say the Tsars added to Ukraine, remember Ukraine, what we call Ukraine today, Kiev. The Russian nation started in Kiev. It was called Kievan Rus. The original Russia was Ukraine. Okay. It's Ukraine. Kiev for Russia is what Ganga is to us. You know, the cradle of our civilization, in a sense. What Kashi, Varanasi would be to, but almost. No analogy is perfect. Now, what happened with the Mongol invasion was it broke the Russian identity into three. Okay, Muscovy, which became Russia. It started off with Nizhny Novgorod, and Novgorod ultimately became, well, in a manner, it mutated into Moscow. And the Russian identity split into three: Russia, White Russia, and Little Russia. Russia is what you call Moscow. Little Russia, White Russia is Belarus, and Little Russia is Ukraine. 1654, that blue thing was Ukrainian territory, what was identified as Ukraine. In the wars with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and then the Kingdom of Poland and all of that, the Tsars acquired that territory from 1654 to 1917. That part includes a significant part of Poland. After the war, both by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and by a forcible annexation after 1945, after the defeat of Germany, that light blue section was annexed to Ukraine by Stalin. The purple bit that you see was overwhelmingly Russian. It includes Odessa in the south, And this entire thing was given by Lenin during the reorganization to Ukraine, and Khrushchev gave over Crimea. Okay, this was just the way Soviets did borders. They didn't much consider ethnicity and things like that. So all of that was given off. And what happened was that I just check the second map. If you can bring up the second map that I
Oh, you
sent
sent me
you.
another one. Okay.
Yeah, and
You
I'm going to
really
send
are
you a third
keeping me
one
on
as
my
well.
toes today.
Yes. Okay. Now I want you to see, this is Poland in 1930. Okay. I want you to look at the three Baltic states above it: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia.
Is it 1913 or 1930?
1930.
1930. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So you look at the three Baltic states: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. You draw a line from the Lithuanian, Latvian coast. Can you drag your mouse over the Lithuanian and Latvian coast?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that just come to the coast. Yeah, can you see? Almost 60% of Poland is to the east of that coast.
right.
Okay, you look under Ukraine at that point is Romania. You can see that the easternmost part of Poland is almost halfway up, uh, almost halfway through to the east of Romania.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you bring up the third image, this is in 1930, 1930, before Hitler and Stalin, but after the Tsars. Now, if you bring up image 3,
Oh, I think you're right. Those two belong together. Go ahead.
right. So now you see what's happened. If you again drag your mouse over the Latvian and Lithuanian coast, the coast, you're no, you're going to the Baltic Sea, to the right, the coastline, right,
To the right, to the
right.
right.
The coastline, you
Here, here, here.
over the red patch, over the red patch, yeah,
Yeah,
there.
right.
Now remember, this is the same coastline, but now 60% of Poland, more 90% of Poland is to the west of that coastline.
Yeah,
Okay, because if you go back to the previous image,
yeah.
now you
This got it
see
now.
this.
Yeah,
Okay, now you see four states out here to the north of Poland. The
right.
northernmost is Estonia,
This one.
north of green. Take your mouse there. Your mouse is on
Yeah, yeah,
green.
yeah. I'm directing him.
Yeah, on
Further
top of
north.
that, on
On
further
top of
north,
that, the first
on
one.
top
This
of that.
one.
Yeah,
This one.
that
Yeah.
that is Estonia. Come down. Next one, Latvia. Next one, Lithuania. Next one, that is Prussia. That is Ducal Prussia, from where the Kingdom of Prussia gets its name. Remember how we discussed this the last time?
Yes, last time we talked about Prussia. Right.
Right. This is Prussia. The land territory that is called Prussia is this. Okay. The Kingdom of Prussia, badly named, which is actually the House of Brandenburg, was the other part, and that is the part of Germany that sticks in two peninsulas, north and south of Western Poland, if you can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
All of that got
All
annexed.
this. Yeah.
Remember, almost one third of modern Polish territory is what was the German Empire. Right? Correct. So, so this is how this works.
Hmm.
And this is where Ukraine got a huge chunk of land. Belarus got a huge chunk of land from Poland. Now, when you say Ukraine, so if you bring the question back up again.
Hang on. It was my question. I think I asked you about
No. It
Ukraine.
was Ukraine and Russia. What will the impact on India be? No. Then you asked me
Right.
historical.
Right.
Ukraine.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay.
That last question.
But
Right. Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, uh, uh, these are artificial drawn boundaries. That is the genesis of this thing. A huge part that in the first map, if you see that entire purple bit and the red bit given by Lenin and Khrushchev, which comprise almost one third of Ukrainian territory, were all Russian majorities. So the area you were talking about, Donetsk, has always been a Russian majority. Odessa, you go look at Odessa today. There's been a lot of migration out since what happened after Yanukovych got ousted. But Odessa has always been Russian majority for a very long time. I think Odessa used to be a closed port. It was the first closed port I visited as a kid in 83, 84. The population there was, the Chuk. Chuk ending names are usually Ukrainian names. Very few. Ski is Polish. Chuk is Chuk and
CHUK.
Ov.
Yeah.
Chuk and Ov are kind of Ov is, but Chuk is Ukrainian. Most of the surnames you would hear there were Russian. Of course, by this time, intermarriage in the Soviet Union was ridiculous. There was a lot of intermarriage, so it was almost impossible to see. You didn't notice these things then anyway, because you never thought the Soviet Union was going to collapse.
Next question from HSEDNATV. Is India in a state of no point of recovery in terms of economic development?
Correct, yes. We are not. Not in my lifetime, probably not in your lifetime, definitely not in Shree's lifetime. But since Shree is healthier, he might have a
Why
nicer
drag
lifetime.
me into this?
Because you're healthier than me, no? You're thinner than me. You have a fitter lifestyle. So you might actually live longer.
Okay.
What measures should a young Indian take, boss? I think we've answered this over and over and over again. The problem is their economic will. There's nothing you can do surprisingly without the state, because the state here is, if the state just let you be, you don't need a functional state. The problem here, the state is like a chastity belt. It doesn't even let you do what you want to do. It's the neighborhood auntie.
Chastity belt.
No, it's like the neighborhood auntie, who's like, hey, I saw you were hanging out with that girl, shameless girl. Tu kalankini hai, I'm going to tell your mother. And then she'll go dindora beating in the entire neighborhood and say, Are dekho, ye kya kalankini is चुड़ैल राधिका ने इस घर में पैदा करके रखी है. अरे राधिका तेरा मुंह काला, तेरा बेटी का मुंह काला, and things like that. And all this poor girl Radhika ki beti would have done was held hands with her boyfriend in this thing. Might not even have been her boyfriend. So this is what the government of India does. They're like the Chudail auntie in everybody's neighborhood. Every neighborhood has one of those Chudail aunties. So what the Indian state is that Chudail auntie.
Aditya Iyer again. Isn't there a lot of quackery being spread under the guise of subaltern studies? Do you think? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, let's answer this because it's all connected. Do you think they will advocate for caste-based reservations in the private sector? Yes, ultimately that will happen. See, the more and more the Indian state fails to live up to its promises, the burden of social justice will be passed on to the individual and to the private sector. That's what's going to happen. And the subaltern studies everywhere, gender studies, all of that is all complete bullshit. It has never made sense. I think till the third wave, there was actually a very good case for emancipation of women. Fourth wave feminism is just absolute shit.
What is this video? Hi, Abhijit Bhaiya. If a war broke out between India, Pakistan, China, and there has been exchange of nuclear weapons, do you think our civilization will survive, or what will be the outcome of that?
If a war broke out... Look, this is so hypothetical, boss. We're not getting into that war. We're really not. There are certain dynamics of nuclear weapons where personally, I feel it'll come to a very, very limited nuclear exchange. You lose about 2-3 cities, secondary cities, not yet primary cities, and it will come to an immediate end after that. I don't see this total annihilation scenario working out.
And Vic London wants to know, why is industrialization so hard on the population? Are there any truly industrial states in India?
There was a truly industrial state once upon a time called West Bengal. It was forcibly industrialized. The British did to West Bengal during the Second World War what Stalin did to Eastern Ukraine, which led to the famines out there. The Holomdor, so one of the causes of the Holomdor was exactly the cause of the Bengal famine as well. The concentration of resources for industrialization and things like that. Why is it so hard? Well, very important. Because what is happening is you're taking away land from agriculture and using it for industry. Uh, in the process, you are making people leave agriculture and join industry. That mental gymnastics of it, going from owning your own land to not owning your own land, uh, is huge. And what happens here is sometimes when you lose your land, you're not even getting that land. You're not even getting the industry. You're not getting a job in the industry. The next thing that happens is you've been given a one-time payment. You're used to constant, every crop season you get payment. That is how you live. You don't know how to deal with you don't know how to deal with the finances of one-time payment. Usually you don't get that payment if the government seizes your land in the Soviet Union and things like that, or as in fact happened in France and Britain and things like that. uh, you don't know what to do for your livelihood because the concentration and industry. So remember, they wanted 1,000 acres of land in Nandigram. How many people would those 1,000 acres of land would have had something like 6 7,000 people dependent on it, of whom only 1,000 to 2,000 would have been employed in the plant. What happens to the remaining 3,000 and co? Where do they go for their food? After they've exhausted that one time payment that they get, where are they going to go? So there's a lot of functions, the non-management of finances, of regular, the loss of regular income, of seasonal income, the diminished absorptive capacity of industry, etc., etc., etc. All of it, uh, you know, and the resources are diverted towards that industry. So all of it comes home to roost. It depends on context and situation. These are the basics. But if you go to each individual example, there are so many different things that afflict it. For example, British industrialization, German industrialization, and Russian industrialization, they're completely different trajectories. British industrialization didn't have the protective cover of a social welfare. German industrialization did. Russian industrialization was actually far worse because in Britain, ultimately, you had to do certain things to keep the population happy because it was kind of responsive. Under Stalin, there was no this thing. So, each one also has a different trajectory. You have to read the economic history of each of these countries. What I told you were the basic, that's the template of why it's hard on the population. But after that, every additional reason just keeps adding hardships and deaths.
Next question, please. Malyaban Bhattacharya, why is Bose an inconvenient nationalist?
I don't think he's inconvenient at all. He's inconvenient if you look at it from a Western perspective, where the West's enemies are your enemies and the West's evil is your evil. But the West's evil is not my evil. The West's enemies are not my enemies. And so for me, Bose is not inconvenient at all. The only issue I have with Bose is I don't think we would have. I think it was the Statesman or the Telegraph at that point of time that summed it up best. That if India had to be a colony, I would any day choose the British every single day over the French, the Japanese, or the Germans. And I think that's true. You look at what the Germans and Japanese did to their colonies, or the Spanish did to their colonies. The British were, for all the nightmares that the British brought, they were way better than all of those guys. So there was, I think, the only thing you can disagree with Bose was the cost benefit analysis was a bit wrong.
I think
But
in terms of
that doesn't make you inconvenient.
so in terms of colonizers, I believe the British were the best, and then the French, and then the Spanish, and then the Portuguese, and so on and so forth. So, next question, RHL from BLR. Why is Sputnik vaccine not accepted by the WHO? Is there a merit in conspiracy as Russia is known to hack info? Why
No,
did
no, no.
ICMR approve?
This you have to go to the WHO and go through a verification process and things like that, right? So I don't know at what stage it is. I didn't even know it wasn't accepted by the WHO, but there's a set standard process for it. But the WHO is politicized, so there will always be, like with Bharat Biotech, they had, we had to threaten people and things like that to get it done. I suspect because so much of the West is arraigned against WHO, there'll be a lot less that Russia can do to twist arms and things like that, but that would be the main reason. But there is a standard process, and the process is also, the players in that process are politicized. The process isn't politicized.
Next question, please. Rishabh Alva, has the Maoist insurgency become worse with time? Will we ever end the
No,
Naxalite problem?
no. It's not as bad as it was. At one point of time, they controlled 1/3 of the Indian landmass, almost 1/3. Okay, huge parts of Maharashtra, small
Andhra
parts of
Pradesh.
western Maharashtra, huge parts of Andhra, almost the whole of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, large parts of Jharkhand, some parts of Bihar, and things like that. That's no longer the case. Their control has weakened very significantly. Look, as long as you have poverty and rural exploitation, you will have Naxalism. You end that first, and then you get rid of the problem.
Next question, please. Anirudhan Nambi. What are the similarities and differences between political Catholicism and Hindutva? What should we learn from rise and fall of Germany's Central Party?
What is the center party? I don't even know what the center party is.
I think he means NAZIS, the National Socialist Party,
Well,
maybe?
no, they weren't centrist. They were socialist.
Yeah, that is
No, so I don't even know what this means.
okay.
And political Catholicism is different in different countries. It's very contextual. Catholicism, German political Catholicism is very different from French political Catholicism, which is very different from Spanish and Italian political Catholicism. So you can't compare it. You have to ask me very specific. And please don't ask me things like German Center Party. Please tell me which specific party you mean.
TJ wants to know, what is your take on Jagan declaring 3 capitals to Andhra Pradesh and going back on the decision? If you were to receive a Padma Award, in which field would that be?
Jagan, I've never liked. I generally seem to think all his decisions are deeply flawed. Okay. So this 3 capitals is one of those incredibly stupid ideas which is going to come to bite him back in his butt later on. But you know how it is in India. Politicians never pay the consequences of their actions. It's consequence free. If I were to receive a Padma Award, which I will not be receiving, I think it would be in food.
Next question. Harshvardhan. We are coming up towards the end of this program, about maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and that's it. Abhijit, do you think the Sikh Jat ego boost result of farm law repeal that you speak about is actually manifesting itself in Canada? That is, India में मोदी को झुकाया तो इसको भी झुका देंगे.
Yes, you remember at the beginning, that's what I was saying. They learned their lessons from India. 60% of Canadian truck drivers are Sikh and overwhelmingly Jat Sikh. So that they isn't it curious that before India got the blowback. So see, the blowback of Afghanistan is coming to India and Kashmir. But first, the first blowback is going to be Pakistan. The same thing is happening out here. The blowback of what happened of Modi's surrender is going to come to India ultimately in the form of a renewed Khalistan movement. But the first blowback is to their biggest supporter, Justin Trudeau. So, yeah. I think on this program, like we say, Ottawa is Ottawa. We'll call Trudeau either Third O or O the Third.
Oh, the turd. Oh, the turd sounds good. Manthan, why is that despite being culturally so similar, Muslims of Gilgit-Baltistan are pro-Pakistan and Muslims of Kargil and Ladakh are pro-India?
I'm not sure they're pro-Pakistan, boss.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, huh?
They've
They're
never
not.
been asked this question, poor guys.
Yeah, they've never been asked that question, but they're one of the main cults out there. They're very Shia. There's Ismailis out there. There's a lot of Shias out there, and a very unique sect out there are the Nurbak Shias. So I am not too sure they're pro-Pakistani, boss. I'm not too sure about that at all. Hmm? And the Muslims of Kargil are not pro-India or pro-Pakistan. They are pro-Iran. So again, a big question mark there. The Ladakhi Muslims, again, they are completely, they don't like what they see happening in Pakistan and all those things. They are pro-India, yes.
Ashtankar Pranav, both answer. Suggest countries like US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Germany, UK, France, UAE for jobs in finance. I want citizenship, work life balance, states' monopoly on violence.
In which case, US is out for you. Australia may be a good idea. Canada is super woke. I think if you're in finance, Germany or UAE might be a better bet for you. Germany, simply because of the fact that it is not Anglophone, is not so woke. It is, but it's not as bad as any of the English speaking countries. France even more so, but in France I'm not too sure your work life balance will be very good. Germany, you will have a better work life balance. You'll get a bigger house for sure, more room and space and things like that. UAE, no wokeism allowed. I would say, and Germany, you have Frankfurt. Dubai is a major financial hub. So, I'd say go for either Germany or UAE.
Add Singapore to that. Add Singapore to that.
Singapore, yeah.
I
Singapore
would
cars
suggest
are very
Singapore.
expensive. Yeah, Singapore cars are very expensive, and Singapore, it's very boring. There's nothing to do unless you're actually taking a weekend flight out to go to Cambodia or Indonesia or Bali or Krabi or Thailand or something like that. You're going to be bored, super bored in Singapore.
Manthan wants to know what is the best way to Indianize Nagas, Manipuris, Kashmiri Muslims who feel alienated to India?
Look, the best thing to do, of course, is to not do it. It's through soft cultural means like TV and things like that. Like I said, with Italy, what happened with Italy, and so on and so forth. Kashmiri Muslims is a completely different kettle of tea. Uh, 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 of course, in the case of Nagas and Manipuris, remember, we don't even have a unified education system and things like that. Uh, uh, we don't even have a unified linguistic this thing. So all those linked languages especially are very, very important. With Kashmiri Muslims, I'm afraid the only thing you can do is demographic.
Anirudhan Nambi wants to know would Indic Renaissance between been robust and faster had India adopted free market capitalism in 1947 instead of socialism? Is there a correlation?
Yeah, there's always a correlation. The more money right now, why is Indic everything so third rate? It's because there's no money going into it. So every third rater wants to tell you that he has some unique knowledge, and it's mostly charlatans. Some of them are good, but their nuance and things, they can't invest money in their own things. Whereas what happens with free market capitalism is that when your economy booms, there is more money for these kind of things. There is greater individual human investment, human capital creation. And that could have been the root of an Indic Renaissance. Yes, it could have. Hypothetical question, so I'm only giving a hypothetical answer. I don't like hypotheticals.
Last question for the day, please. Kapil Gund wants to know, what should government do about Navy budget and acquisition?
Same as it should do for everything else. What specifically did you want to know? Because I think the Navy budget is quite sufficient, but I don't think the Navy's plans are in sync with the budget. If you're going in for a 3 aircraft carrier fleet, I think somebody's got their costing and economics horribly wrong. I think the posture should be sea denial rather than sea control. We have a sea control. Our planning seems to be for sea control, which I think is ruinously expensive. The thing about sea control is it's a layer that can be always added later on when you have a very robust sea denial capability. Acquisition, my whole issue has always been we don't acquire in bulk, so that economies of scale never works out.
All right, guys, I think we'll call it a wrap for today. As always, we are going to try and get you the unasked questions today during the week. We have some catching up to do. We will do that. And Abhijit, if you could just stay on after we go offline, please. I just want to talk to you for a second. And thank you once again. Namaskar.
May the blessings of our Lord in Christ be upon all of you.